So, PlayStation 5 was announced today, and I had a list of things that were included with it. I wasn't terribly excited about this, but if you wanted to know about the PlayStation 5, it's actually going to be called the PlayStation 5. It's going to be released next year, 2020. It says holidays. I'm assuming that means Christmas holidays, right? Whenever it's Christmas time, holidays is always like done in plural, I've noticed. So right, it's going to have ray tracing support built into the hardware, which is becoming a bit of a standard on the PC. This, I'd say, is kind of interesting because this is something where the console is behind the PC, but not by that much, right? Ray tracing's only been around for a year at like the consumer level on the PC, it seems like. It's going to have an SSD to help load with the boot times and stuff. Now, it also says to help with streaming. I mean, I think it means streaming stuff from the hard drive to the CPU or whatever, right? Because streaming is bandwidth from the internet. It doesn't really have anything to do with your solid state drive. What I'm curious about is, again, like, they could have had a solid state drive into PS4. The technology's been around for like 10 years on the PC, but is it going to be just a solid state drive through the SATA, or will it be a NVMe drive, which is what I have on here? I've got two NVMe's, one for Windows and one for recording to, and they are ridiculously fast. The controller's also going to have adaptive triggers, haptic feedback, no idea what that means, new speakers, and USB Type-C. A bit disappointed by the Type-C thing, because if you've looked up USB Type-C, if you use the wrong same port, if you use the wrong cable on USB-C, you have the potential to actually permanently damage the hardware because they use different voltage types. If you use USB-C, you should always use the provided cable for the product and not swap them over. I don't know, I've not experienced that myself, but I don't know to what extent that is actually an issue. But it's just something I heard about it. They're saying physical games for the console will use a 100GB optic disc. Now, I believe Blu-ray is 50, so it's probably double-layered Blu-ray, so not a really big jump. Also, someone in chat saying haptic is basically vibration. Yeah, I mean, these are all just like slight upgrades. I remember being a kid and PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 felt massive. 2 to 3 felt massive as well, and then 3 to 4... like, not such a big deal. Apparently a double layer Blu-ray is 50 gigs, so maybe it's quad layer or maybe it's some new sort of thing. It says the optical drive also acts as a 4K Blu-ray player, if you're into that. I mean, I can't really tell the difference between 720 and 1080, so I don't need to ever upgrade beyond that as far as I'm concerned. Apparently the dev kits which were leaked are real and developers have access to them. There's a new modular approach to storing data. Finer grain access to data as opposed to big blocks. So, like, it says installing a game, you might be able to install just the multiplayer component of it. That doesn't sound like anything revolutionary, just a smarter way of installing games and whatnot. Completely revamp the UI. I mean, okay, obviously. New controller will have a larger battery capacity and will be a bit heavier than DualShock 4. My controller, like, barely runs out. I really think the battery on it's great, but then I'm use it very sparingly, so I'm not like a hardcore playing it 8 hours a day type player. Bluepoint Studios, folks behind the Shadow Colossus, are working on a big PS5 title. There's always going to be someone working on a big title for the new console, and the GPU has been used to power machine learning. I mean, yeah, so has so many other GPUs and CPUs. That to me just feels like they're trying to hype it up a little bit more. So to me, all of that is not really that exciting, just because as a PC gamer, again, you're always just in front of the console market with the technology, and it doesn't sound like there's going to be that much of a power gap closed, and it's the old diminishing returns. If you think about the difference from PS1 to PS2, PS2 to PS3, like, there were big noticeable differences. 3 to 4 graphically, not quite as much, and I think 4 to 5, the graphics difference is going to slow down. I really think the consoles need to innovate a little bit to survive, and bear in mind that Google Stadia is about to launch and potentially could take some of that gaming market away. Be interesting to see what happens, but personally I wasn't terribly excited by that announcement. Like, I don't know what I was expecting, because like I said, I'm not a gamer really. I'm interested in the PlayStation console though, just because, you know, like, sort of attached to it in a weird way through having it as a kid. It was the first console that I got. X, you're not a PC snob, are you? Say it ain't so. No, I'm just playing, says Footlong Hawk. I'm just being real. Like, I don't say that the hardware's better because I'm emotionally invested in the PC. It is. You can go and get better components for the entire part of the PC, and you can't get them for the console because the console's got like a set grade, right? Also, there was a time when you could argue that console gaming was more stable, but that's way gone. Anyway, I wanted to mention something about the PlayStation 5. Back when the PlayStation 3 came out, they had something called PlayStation Home, which I still think is just one of the most brilliant ideas that never took off, okay? And I actually kind of had this idea myself. As you know, like, I'm an ideas person. I'm not trying to, like, say, I thought of that first or anything like that. My mind is just always ticking over. When I see stuff, I always think about how it could be done differently. And I remember having this idea of, like, what if when you, like, loaded up a console, right, rather than like loading games through a menu, you're already in like a virtual environment, and then you kind of go straight into the game. And on PlayStation 3, they had something called PlayStation Home, and this was kind of that. It was like a virtual environment to meet up with your friends, and then you could jump into games from the virtual environment. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant, but it never took off. I mean, how cool would it be to just like load up your PlayStation, feel like you're in a game from the get-go, and then when you jump into a game, it's like a seamless transition. I just thought it was such a brilliant concept, and when I actually played Home, I remember it being kind of clunky and like something that needed a lot of work, but I think it's been entirely scrapped now. People are saying VR question mark in chat. Yeah, I mean, even more so now with virtual reality, that environment, could be seen through a headset. Tuxiban says, it was in beta for ages, but it's discontinued completely now. X, yes, that is such a shame. I mean, imagine like, if Minecraft was that platform, right? Like, imagine going and having building your own world and then having a portal that takes you to another computer game. I think Minecraft and the look of it wouldn't be the most palatable thing to transition you seamlessly through games, but just a virtual environment where you could actually create and mold your surroundings. You used to be able to like earn points and have an apartment and then put things inside the apartment. It was very kind of basic ideas, like had a little bit of like a Habbo Hotel vibe, I guess, even though it was 3D and not pixel. But man, such a cool idea, I thought.